From the sizzling kitchens of Houston's to the vibrant fitness floors of F45, today's journey transcends industries and ignites the spirit of transformation. Join us as we unveil the remarkable tale of one individual's leap from culinary excellence to fitness entrepreneurship. Nestled in the affluent heart of Johnson County, Kansas, we explore the dynamic world of franchise ownership, its triumphs, its challenges, and its unwavering pursuit of greatness. Welcome to F45 Leawood. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy, C-I-Z-Z-Y, or as the gentleman in front of me may know me as Coach Stutzer or Collis, and some of you guys may know me as Coach Stutzer or Collis. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with yet another episode of Voices of Value. We're on the road in Leawood today. In our last episode, we were in downtown Kansas City. The episode before that, we were in Strawberry Hill, so we are obviously on the move. I'm excited today because not only am I talking to the boss man, but I'm talking to a man who I admire, not only for the line of work that he's in right now, but how he carries himself in the line of work, how he has particular standards that he holds his employees to, he holds himself to, and he holds the space and environment that he provides to the community to. And I think it's so important. I tell him every once in a while when I see him, I'll be like, hey, I went to another something, and I just want to tell you, you got some good standards here. No matter what somebody tells you, keep those standards. Anyways, enough talking them up. Jack, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people. Let them know who you are, where you're from, and then we'll jump into this conversation.
Jack Rinkes, now from Kansas City.
I never knew how to say your last name.
From Prairie Village.
Yes, sir.
Past 30 years, I lived in Tennessee. Moved here in 2020.
2020.
Yep.
Okay, one more time your last name, because I've actually never said your last name out loud.
Rinkes.
Rinkes, so it's not Rinkes. How many times did teachers growing up call you
All my life.
Jack Rinkes?
All my life.
Did you ever correct them, or were you the type of kid to just be like, whatever?
I'd correct them.
Correct. What about your parents? Were they big like correctors? Hey, say it the right way when you're out in public?
Yes.
I like that. Let's start there, man. So 20 years in Tennessee, 20 or 30 years in Tennessee. So does that mean you were born and raised in Tennessee, or does that mean you moved to Tennessee at a certain point? Are you from Kansas City, then left Kansas City? What's the tie-in to Tennessee, and how'd you end up in Kansas City?
Long story short, born in Cleveland, Ohio. Still Midwest.
LeBron James.
Moved to Tennessee when I was 8 years old. Lived on 50 acres. Horses, cows, motorcycles, dogs, cats.
I love it.
Went to school my first year, messed it up, college. And then after that, moved to Kansas City. Lived here from 87 to 92. Started in restaurants then, waiting tables. Moved to Tennessee again, but a different area, Memphis, Tennessee. And once I graduated, ran restaurants until 2015.
I love it.
I moved here in 2020 and started a new business.
Yes, you did. So how many years, what's that, 87 to 2015, that's 20 years, is 2007, another 7 on top of that, so almost, let's just round it up, 30 years in the restaurant industry.
Correct.
What was the first restaurant you started at, like your first job?
Exactly.
Boom.
It was here, Finnegan's.
Okay, what type of food do they serve? Where were they located?
It was at the Bannister Mall. That's no longer there.
Okay, yes, it is no longer there. Sad face. It's, good days at the Bannister Mall.
Upbeat casual restaurant.
Okay.
At that point, it was a fairly popular restaurant.
Finnegan's. How do they spell that?
Bennigan's.
What's your first bad memory as a, and I say bad memory because when I worked in restaurants, which was literally a very short time, the very first thing that happened to me, I worked as a host at Applebee's at the Independence location, basically inside the Independence Mall. And the very first day on the job, I was like, I'm at the front. I'm like, okay, we'll get you seated in just a moment. It's crowded. And they're like, we had reservations. I'm like, we don't have reservations at Applebee's. And then I got cursed at and spit on. And then I was like, you know what? This industry isn't for me. So we'll go into the positive aspect too. Don't worry. But what is the first you know, when people say they have nightmares or like they dream of smelling the restaurant when they're dreaming.
I know exactly.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. So what's the first memory?
One of my first tables I was waiting on, I forgot to put it in the order. They just get mad. That's all there is to do.
So when we think about wellness and fitness, and when we think about restaurants and hospitality, I think sometimes people don't think about those two things being in the same industry, and I do.
Absolutely.
From a hospitality perspective and the character traits, the behaviors, the service mindset, the customer first approach. There's so many crossovers. So when you shared with us when we first started working here, I relate you and Houston's. That's the restaurant I associate you with. So when you started working for Houston's, what year is this? What city is it in? And what would you say are some of the lessons you took from there that you were able to carry in to this fitness business, into this, you know, new industry, quote unquote, but same industry at the same time?
Well, they are the same. It's service. Even service. Probably the biggest one. You learn so much at Houston's Restaurant. It's an incredible company to work for. It was 2 owners. They had 50 restaurants. So, I mean, that's incredible right there. Mm-hmm. They had extremely high standards. Probably the biggest thing that I've brought from there to here is one of the first things I learn people's names. Number one thing people want to hear are their names. It just makes you feel welcome, warm. You want to be there. Somebody that knows your name when you say it every single day when they come in the building. I push it here. You know, most of the people that work here know just about everybody's name that comes in this building. That's probably the biggest one.
Except Collis.
The front desk,
I'm working on it. Yeah, front desk has it locked in.
No, the front desk knows everybody's name that comes in here.
Absolutely.
That's probably the biggest one. And then, you know, kill people with kindness. You can't go wrong.
Absolutely.
The difference between this and a restaurant, you know, we deal with 1,000 people a day, and you have complaints no matter what. Like you said, you know, people get mad. Here, they're coming in to better themselves, to change something about themselves, and you know, whether they're in maybe a bad mood when they first get here, when they're done with the class, they're in a good mood. They're upbeat. You know, they feel good about themselves. They've done something for the day. They've accomplished something. That's a great thing.
I love it.
People love it.
And when you think, when I think restaurants, and especially when I think management in restaurants or ownership in restaurants, I think the city, like the personality that comes into mind is like a New Yorker, a Bostonian, a little aggressive, but they have manners, but they're a little like, you know, intense. Do you feel like that was the same with like your upper management at Houston's? And do you feel like there's something to take from that, having like a, you know, hey, I'm serious, but I also care about you mindset, which is something I think about when I think about restaurants. I don't know if you had that same experience, but when I think about restaurants, I think management, tough, I love you, but like, hey, get your shit together. Like,
you got to be tough on the standards, not on the person.
Explain a little bit, dive into that a little bit more.
Standards, whatever the standard is, you got to be tough on that. You got to keep pushing. But you can't be tough on the person. You can't be mean to the person, the employee.
So focusing in on, you know, okay, say like let's just use the names as an example. So it's like, hey, standard here is we have to have the first name down of our members at F45, okay? And so somebody comes in, you don't hear them saying anybody's name or something like that. It's not a, hey, what the hell are you doing? It's a,
no, you just gotta push it.
You know, hey, let's try to remember the names there.
You know what we do?
No, I don't.
We'll stand, we'll walk down and go through the windows, point people out, and call out their names.
I like that.
So it's pushing the standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and every person isn't made for every job, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But as long as you treat them with kindness and you are fair about it, that happens sometimes.
I love it. 27 years in restaurants. You have to have a few stories that are, maybe it's strong to say life-changing, but memorable. Somebody comes in and they share a story with you, or there's an experience that just filled your heart with joy that reminded you about the importance of this. So is there any life lessons or any memorable moments at Houston's over those many years, or any takeaways from your bosses or employees that they taught you that you felt were just important components that you've carried with you today, not necessarily in business particularly, but maybe just as a person?
Yeah, probably one of the biggest ones is listening before action. Take a breath, take a minute, take a day to think about something before you act on it sometimes. You can learn a lot in a little bit of time. There's something to be said for pulling the trigger quick, but then also, there's also something to be said for sitting on it and thinking about it for a minute until you react about it. That's probably the biggest one. And go back to, kill people with kindness. I've made so many friends. I've met all different walks of life. I think I'm able to deal with all different kinds of people. And you learn that in the restaurant, whether it's, the guests coming in or the purveyors that you're working with, or the electrician, the plumber, the construction worker that's working on the building with you. You see all different kinds of people. I was friends with our plumber, and I saw the mayor every day in Memphis, Tennessee. So it's everybody.
And real quick, just for my knowledge, update me on the type of food Houston served. Like, what's it, or maybe
It's
even
a high-end casual.
Okay, what's a
American
good
food.
comparison for Kansas City, for those Kansas City listeners listening right now who haven't experienced?
Probably like a Rock Hill.
Okay, like a Rock Hill Grill. Okay,
Maybe just a little bit nicer than a Rock Hill, but like that.
Okay, nice. And those are those restaurants all over the country? They're primarily in the South or Southern states?
No, all over the country.
All over the country.
There's still, I think there's 52 of them, I believe. A lot of them are in California and throughout the California, but no, they have Texas, they have Tennessee, they have Florida, just all over the country.
Okay.
New York, Long Island, New Jersey.
Okay, so they're in all the major markets essentially.
Yes.
Okay, I can't wait for the day to check them out. I'm gonna get. Once I go to
We used to have one on the plaza here.
Okay, see, maybe I've been to one when I was a baby or something. Who knows? That might have been back in the '87 days when you were here. So, talk to me about siblings. Did you grow up with a lot of kids in the household? Are you an only child? Like, what were some of your early influences outside of career, outside of sports, outside of fitness? What were some other influences, whether it's mom, dad, siblings, who kind of helped curate the character of Jack Rinkes?
Well, first, hands down, my mom.
Yeah. And in what ways?
My best friends.
Yeah.
Grew up with one sister, highly intelligent. She's a nurse and a lawyer.
Wow.
She practices law now, but she's in the medical industry. Just a sharp girl, about 4.5 years younger than me. Probably the biggest influence was my uncle. He was an engineer, just incredibly patient. Did a lot with us when we were kids as far as homework and just helping. He was just one of those guys that was just patient as can be. And then, you said outside of work, it wasn't probably the third most influential person was my boss for 20 some years at Houston's. He was my work ethic, how I go about work. He was probably the biggest influence.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
and just a great guy, highly intelligent, well read, financially, fiscally very smart. Just helped me in a lot of ways as far as that.
I love it. So, Kansas City, and you said 20, when did you move back here?
2020.
2020, okay. So this is in the midst of the pandemic.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, my question is, when were you introduced to the F45 brand? Prior to purchasing, how did you first become aware of F45 and their franchises? Were you already working out there in Memphis, or what was your first introduction?
I had a friend that started one in Memphis.
Okay. And did you work out there at the time as well when you were living down there?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't, he hadn't had it long until I moved here, but I worked out there. I worked out at Lifetime and worked out at F45.
Okay, so first introduction is in Memphis. A friend of yours happened to purchase a franchise. Didn't own it for too long before you came to Kansas City. So I guess when you come to Kansas City and you didn't you opened this location up, not too long after that, was 2022 or 2021? 21, yeah. So exactly. So not long after.
Still going on.
Pandemic is still happening. You've just arrived in Kansas City. So I guess what kind of cued you to be like, I'm going to open an F45? And how did this location end up being the one you opened? Like, why Leawood? Why F45? Let's start with why F45 first.
First, I wanted to change professions. Long story short, I was moving here because of my wife now. We were dating at the time. I wanted to get out of the restaurant but I still wanted something to do with service.
Yeah.
I like the idea of service. I like dealing with people. I like people. And I started doing that. I worked out at Lifetime, and I started doing F45, and it's just a great workout. It's 45 minutes long. You got everything you want. You got cardio, you got strength, you got direction, you got great coaches. It was just a nice, good workout. I'd go to the gym, and I got results, but I'd be there for 2 hours. When you're working out by yourself, you come in and do 45 minutes, and you're getting just about the same amount. And so I talked to him about it quite often, and I just like the concept. A little scared about doing something in the middle or near the end of the pandemic. It was still going on. Yeah. But, it's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You only live once.
Dive into, I guess, what research you did and what the conversations look like with your friend, because it's one thing, and maybe it was just so powerful that you were like, I went to these classes, I had so much fun. Obviously, I saw the people showing up in here and having fun, and it's quick and it's effective, and that's all I need to know. But I feel like there has to be a little bit more behind that. Like, what really sold you on the decision? Like, I'm going to invest my time and capital over the next few years into this business, and I'm just coming back to a new city, and I'm doing it during the pandemic. So there had to be more there. So, what else did they have to share with you, or did you have to read up on for you to be sold on the fact that you were going to do this?
Well, first, I just talked to him a lot about it. Of course, we went over financials. Financials were good with him. Mm-hmm. I did my research as far as the market here. There was only one. It was on the Missouri side, downtown. So there was none. There was zero here. Mm-hmm. I thought that would be a good time to do it. It's growing. It's one of the fastest growing franchises in the country, actually in the world, because it is overall. It's all around the world. Yeah. And like I said, go back to, I like the workout. And I thought it was just a good concept at the time, and it's panning out to be a good concept.
Yes, sir. First few months you open, what were some initial obstacles that were in your way? Obviously, the pandemic was probably a big one. Was it tough to find a location? Was it tough communicating with the franchisee, like corporate-esque people?
It's a process. It takes, it took, I want to say, probably a year and a half from start to finish. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest obstacles was the cost of everything. Mm-hmm. During the pandemic, and just the cost of anything was just crazy. Plywood went from $12 from before pandemic to I was paying $98 a sheet for it. So it's that drastic. Mm-hmm. So that was probably one of the biggest obstacles, because it just sort of blew my budget out of the water a little bit. Yeah. As far as finding the place, no, I have a great commercial real estate person here that my wife found that she's used before. She did a great job. We liked the area. It was, you're right here at Leawood, Prairie Village, and Overland Park. Mm-hmm. It's just a great neighborhood.
Absolutely.
I think it was far enough from downtown where that F45 wouldn't affect me at all. And it was something new to the neighborhood.
And what I think is funny, that you realize when you're in here for long enough, which I've been here for a little over a year and 2 months, a year and 3 months, is a lot of people... It's like the perfect transition. So you have the F45 location down there in Crossroads, but that's all young people, typically 30 and under. Totally different crowd. Yeah. But what happens is they enter a transition of life where they get married, they have a kid, and the first 3 places they look to move when they're looking to go upwards and get is the exact 3 places you just said. It's Prairie Village, Overland Park, and Leawood. So we get plenty of members who worked out down there, enjoyed that location, enjoyed it, but they moved to Leawood because they are a growing family, or they started working for, one of the companies out here in the Leawood and Prairie Village, Overland Park area. And guess who's here? We are.
That's another thing my real estate agent was great about. She did the demographics for this area, mm-hmm. Within, I think, a 4-mile radius. Mm-hmm. And it was just a good neighborhood.
Yeah, great area. No, I love that. When we think about, franchisors, franchisees, most people don't actually understand what that is. So what exactly is the difference between, opening up a fitness studio, like Jack's Fitness Studio, versus opening up a franchise location of F45 Training? So try to help the listeners understand what a franchise even is. It doesn't have to be specific to F45, but obviously
it's real simple. Franchise, it's something, a business that somebody's come up with, mm-hmm. and they've decided to let other people open them. That's the simplest terms.
Yeah.
It's the difference. Somebody's come up with a good idea. I think what I've seen and read about, the hardest thing for some people is to not follow the plan. And when I got into this, I said, okay, I like this idea. I'm not going to vary from it. It's successful, so why tweak it? And that's what a lot of people try to do. They have a combination of a franchise and then their idea in their head. It's like, well, no, just try it out first and see what it does and see how it works. And that was the big thing, and it works great. But on the flip side, you have to follow a few rules. You're not totally boss,
right?
But with a lot of it, you are. It's not quite as much as owning your own right out, but then you don't get the support also. When you own your own, it's you.
Yeah.
So you get support, and they were good about this. I mean, this company was good about direction, what they want, how to get it. They made the process pretty easy. Wasn't very difficult. And as long as you follow the rules most of the way, they leave you alone.
And when we think about like what they don't do, so they're involved in a lot of the process, but like when we think about social media, or when we think about, wanting to have a videographer come in here or hosting pop-up events, like is that all just thinking about ways to ingrain in the community?
Yeah. Once you open it's it's you.
Okay.
And I mean, I like that aspect too, because you have control over it then.
Absolutely. What have been some of your favorite events over the past 3 years of being open? I know the one I've been involved in was the pop-up between Holiday's, what's their Prairie Village location? Injection Studio. I think there was a hair braider there, another person for hair, and then I think there was somebody with some type of snacks, and then there was us where we were hosting an outdoor workout.
They were doing Botox.
And they were doing Botox, exactly.
Boot camps and Botox.
That's what it was. Boot camps and Botox. There we go. So that was a fun event. What have been some other events that you're like, that was really fun one that come to mind?
We partnered with Meet Mitch across the street. They have a new green area in the back, great little area. We did a workout and then food at Meet Mitch. It was really fun. Why we were building it. So once you start, before you actually open, you're trying to get members, and we did outdoor workouts at Meadowbrook Park every Saturday morning, and that was a blast.
Yeah, I love that park. It's beautiful
and
as well.
Everybody that signed up before we opened initially would come to those. That was good. We do happy hours. Most especially during the summer, we do something once a month, whether it's a collaboration with somebody or just a happy hour somewhere.
Absolutely. And how important have you seen that to be in terms of like garnering and creating like a strong community within?
Oh, incredible. And that's another reason somebody goes to a gym. It's funny, you go there for the exercise and that, but you do go for the community. You go, people knowing your name. You meet people, or you're working out with one of your friends. You're doing happy hours. It's a social event. Yeah, and I feel like the one thing I feel like a lot of business owners could learn from, what is it? I guess a lot of non-franchise people who are trying to launch a business right now could learn from F45 and location in Orange Theory, not to mention competitors. Sorry, but Orange Theory and some of these other locations is they really do a great job creating community in those locations. I'm sure some do better than others. I know for sure that we have a lot of events that we have going on here over the time being here. I know there's for sure a lot of meeting outside of here, like a group of us are going to go and grab food over here, or a group of us are going to go play pickleball. Pickleball's been a huge thing. Or we're all going to go to serve and do a workout before and then play some pickleball. We've done a serve workout. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think one thing a lot of people could learn from these locations like F45 or Orange Theory, or I'm sure there's other locations I could think of, but is they do a great job garnering community and really try to study that. And I always just I'm currently trying to figure out how to build community within my own, fitness ecosystem, and it's not easy. So you really should do your best to, learn from others and what they've done. I'm sure you had conversations with the friend of yours who owns the location in Memphis as well. Like, hey, what'd you do to, make people feel like it's a family?
At first, anything you want to do well, I think you got to work at it. I think it's a little harder right at first, but once you get it going, then you find other people sort of get it going too. You don't have to take the initiative after a while. You have other members do it, or other, my manager or front desk, they'll actually initiate a lot of the stuff too.
I love it.
Because it's just social. I mean, it's not,
It's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. You want to go out and hang out with a couple people that you like.
100%.
Yeah.
One thing the most motivating thing from my experience at F45, and I'm going to ask you to answer the same question. The most motivating experience for me at F45 Leawood has been the time period where we had like 7 pregnant women. Nine.
That's strong, baby. That's
Some
strong.
badass ladies just out here hustling like all the way through their pregnancy, working out, showing up, being consistent. And then, as soon as they gave doctor orders that, they could come back as soon as they had the baby and giving doctor's orders to come back, they're right back in here. And I find that to be really impressive. I think too often we get used to societal standards, and what people might be like, like this happened, and that's why 10 years later I haven't been to the gym. And I feel like I loved how Anna was highlighting her journey, and some of the other women in here were highlighting their pregnancy journey while maintaining health and fitness, because I think it's just awesome motivation for the outside. I have a friend that tore his ACL. Other people tear ACL, just don't do anything the entire time. He's like still curling in my bed. Like, find something that you can do. And obviously maybe I'm not the best person to speak on this because I'm a male, but I found that to be a motivating experience for me at F45 Leawood, and that's pretty badass from our ladies here. What was an experience for you over the past few years where you saw somebody in here, or maybe they had an amazing journey, or maybe they lost a lot of weight, maybe they put on a lot of muscle mass, maybe they just are happier? What's like a story, without sharing their name, but just a story that comes to mind that inspires
Well, there's a couple. You see it every day, actually. It's, whether somebody's trying to do a pull-up and they succeed. The 2 biggest ones was probably when somebody that started with us right from the beginning doing the outdoor workouts, they lost 60 pounds.
Wow.
And it was just an incredible journey to sort of go through it with them and see them just gradually, boom, boom, just keep on. And they just kept at it. They got down to the weight they wanted to be. Second, it's sort of fun. It was, you brought up as far as the pregnant members. We had 9. I've had 2 of those work out past when they were due. One was due on a Friday, didn't give birth, worked out on Saturday, gave birth on Monday. That's just impressive.
It really is. It really is. And then
it was fun to have the story. We actually we did a little skit and filmed, I think it ended up being about 5 or 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a special class just for them.
That's awesome. I remember that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Like, how can we join together in times where there's a challenge? How can we be supportive? And the fact that all of them were in here, I'm sure and promote it. And I'm sure all of them are in communication as their babies go through month to month and getting, we're at 6 months, we're at 7 months. And because they were able to collaborate, connect, camaraderie, that's going to be a forever thing, Like, you remember 10 years ago when this happened, or hey, you introduce your kid to their kid, or they grow up together, whatever it might be. So it's really awesome to have spaces where build community, awesome things happen. It's really impressive. So, Jack, I want to ask you one final question today, and it's your last day on Earth. Imagine, you're 150 years old. Let's just say, with all these new peptides and different things coming out, we might live for a very long time. You never know. So you're 150 years old, your great-great-grandchildren are sitting at your feet, they look up at you, and they're like, hey, great-great-great-great-grandpops, great-great-great-great-great, Jack Rinkes. Got it right. I got it right. That's okay. What's one piece of advice on how to live a good life? What are you going to tell them? And this is all they're going to remember you for. None of your books, no podcasts, nothing's going to be out there. This is the last thing you get to leave them with.
Treat people with kindness and moderation.
I'm sorry, Esau. I'm sorry, Mark. I got to follow up on that question. How do people do, because I'm sure you've experienced this, especially in the restaurant industry, how can people remind themselves, or what can they practice, what can they implement in their brain, or what can they think about when they're trying to practice kindness, but somebody is just so rude and like the energy is just so off? Like, how have you been able to push through that, receiving that bad energy and still practice, the characteristic of kindness? Like, how have you pushed through that in those moments?
You really got to make yourself think, where might this person be in life at this point? What's going on in the world that they're like this? Second, sometimes you just got to take the high road. It's not going to kill you. Sometimes you put your tail between your legs and say I'm sorry and go with it.
Yeah.
In the big picture, it's not going to hurt you.
Absolutely.
Maybe a little pride here and there, but I mean,
it'll disappear.
It'll go away.
Right.
It'll dissipate.
That's funny.
That, and then, moderation's a big thing. Just too much of anything's not good.
Ever.
Whether it's alcohol, food, anything. So moderation.
I love it.
Kindness and moderation, man.
I love it. Jack, please plug where they can find your location, how they can support the F45 Training Leawood location, and just, how they can show up and
Leawood,
participate.
F45training.com. We're at 95th and Mission right here in Ranch Mart. Newly renovated area over here. It's a great neighborhood. We have classes. Schedule one. Come see us. You'll love it. It's a great workout.
Quick breakdown of the schedule. How does it work? One strength day, one cardio. You give the spiel every day.
Monday, Wednesday's cardio-based. Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday are strength-based. Friday and Saturday is a hybrid of both. They're 45-minute classes, except for Saturday, it's 1 hour. We have classes starting at 5:15 in the morning, and then Monday through Thursday, we have 7 classes all day long. Friday, we have 5. Saturday, we have 3. Sunday, we have 2.
I love it. Jack Rinkes.
For all times, for everybody.
Love it. Love it. Jack, F45 Training Leawood, we appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure talking with you.
It is the Voices of Value. Ooh, I almost called it a podcast again. Voices of Value Show. Subscribe on YouTube. Share it with a friend. It's the only way we can grow.